All right, cool. So, uh, thank you for joining us, Binny, and welcome everybody to Cryo's Winter Reviewing Big Variable Series. This is a fireside chat with none other than the co-founder of Flipkart, Binny Bansal. He's here. Welcome, Binny.
Thanks, Ajay. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, it's really nice to have you here to be able to come and talk to our audience today. I'll give you a quick introduction to our audience as well, right? It consists of hungry developers from across the country, across the world, right? Aspiring developers. There are also a huge community of cryo graduates as well as cryo learners and students who are going through their learning journeys on cryo as we speak. And we have also just kicked off our Winter of Doing event, which is one of the largest tech externships in the country. So there are some top startups giving us projects that are open. People are sort of used to doing these coding challenges. How about project challenges, right?
Yeah,
So they're all here waiting to listen to you. So maybe you want to just, say a quick hi and welcome them to the program yourself.
yeah. Hi everyone. Welcome to the
Yeah.
program. And I've been associated with Crio since its beginning, so it's great to be here and chat with all of you.
Yeah, so Binny is actually one of the investors in Cryo as well. So just a quick disclosure right there. Anyway, so Binny, let's get started. Let's go back to the beginnings, right? You started off as a student at IIT studying computer science. You've also been interested in computer science and programming even way before that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about those beginnings?
Yeah. So I got introduced to computers luckily in school. I think around in class 4 or 5 is when I remember. And I think my love for sort of computers and programming started. It was kind of love at first sight. So used to be like a half an hour sort of small period every week that
Mhm.
we had for computers, and I remember I would spend a lot of my sort of lunch hours and any other free periods. I would go to sort of the computer lab as much as
Right.
possible, even back in school. And I was a sort of above average student at the time, not like sort of the best student, let's say, in class, but in computers, only in the computer subject, like I was just way ahead of everyone.
Right.
So, and I was almost the only one in school who could code as when they started teaching us coding and all of that. So it was uh, again, it was something which I was really interested in from very early days. Then when I obviously got to IIT Delhi in 2001, we'd obviously there had sort of the best of students from across the country, and almost everybody, sort of was quite good at computers and coding and stuff.
Right.
And there again, I was again a sort of good student there from a computer science standpoint. Again, I wasn't uh, I I didn't get very deep into any particular thing. So I was sort of a journalist
Mhm.
trying to learn more and trying to learn one thing, one subject within computer science well. And yeah, so those were sort of the early days of on the education side. And then when it came to placements, I basically chose placements of doing a master. Basically, options were whether to do a job or to do a master's or a PhD or to do an MBA or to
Mhm.
actually do a job in consulting or in banking, which a lot of my friends were also looking at. I think at that time I decided that I wanted to stick to computer science, and sort of interviewed only for computer science jobs, and got into one in Bangalore in a company called Sarnoff,
Mhm.
which was doing sort of computer vision much earlier than it, and machine learning much before it became sort of mainstream.
Sure.
So it was a little ahead of my time there, so I quit very soon.
Yeah, I did some research and found that you worked on some pretty cool um, image recognition kind of
Yeah,
solutions around automatic car navigations and things like that,
yeah, automatic car navigation, figuring out sort of
lane detection
lane
algorithms.
detection,
Yeah,
using microprocessors, and also number plate detection and
right.
number plate matching and all of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, back when it was not yet so cool. Today
Yes,
it's so
back
hot
in
right now, right?
2005-6 when it was just very early. Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's incredible. So, um, you joined Amazon shortly after that, um, and you worked there for less than a year, and you were like, no, maybe I want to do one of my own things.
Yeah.
What kind of prompted you to, you were at a great place, and I think back then, Amazon did have some significant challenges. It was still way early on, right? So, what
Yeah.
was that journey like? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so after this job at Sarnoff, while at this job at Sarnoff, I kind of could see that, yeah, the work was actually, from a technical point of view, I was doing like very good work, and solving, like trying to solve these great problems. But I could see that the company wasn't doing that well, and
Mm.
there wasn't a lot of application for the work we were doing, or the company was not able to figure that out. So I could
Right.
see that it won't be great for the career to stay in the company for longer, although the work was great. So made the tough decision of moving uh, to a company where which was a lot more closer to the internet, which was sort of really the thing which was happening and taking off. So
Mhm.
and that led me to and that's how I got into Amazon. But again, at Amazon, I mean, as you said, it was still like not very early days, but I mean, it was still 2007. They were sort of in the midpoint of their journey and doing a lot of things. Me and Sachin both worked at their AWS division, and
Right.
trying to build a PayPal competitor at that
Mhm.
time on the payment side, which again, unfortunately, when I joined them, it was sort of losing momentum, losing steam, losing direction really. When the team didn't have too much direction, nothing much was
Sure.
happening. So there was not much a lot of work to be done. So
Right.
so I was basically pretty bored. And when you are bored, you think of I think too many crazy things. And one of the crazy
Yeah.
things was
What
that,
else you can do? Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah, like why do a job at all? And we should try to do something on our own. And Sachin was also having similar thoughts. So
Hmm.
that's how we said, okay, let's do something. Let's do a startup together.
Yeah, so let's look at that journey, right? So both you and Sachin, competent developers, sort of able to build anything that you wanted, right? With
Yeah,
some
that is the only
effort.
thing we knew. So we had no business understanding. We had
Right.
like absolutely no business skills at all. The only skills we had was given a problem, we could figure out how to build. Given a technology problem, we could figure out what
Right.
to build and how to build. Yeah.
Sure. And you figured out that e-commerce was pretty nascent in India, very early days, and then you said, okay, let's just build an e-commerce company like that, just like that, right?
Yeah.
How does that decision happen? Like, there's so many problems you're looking at, so many things you can build, and obviously both of you have the skills to build it.
Yeah.
How do
Yeah.
you zero in on something like e-commerce?
Yeah. I think e-commerce, we looked at a few different types of problems at that time. We thought of, at that time, Google Maps wasn't as big or as accurate. Very early days, mobile phones weren't sort of the mainstream thing, right? So we thought of building maps for India, that maps could be an important platform. We thought about bus tickets as well in travel. We thought about a couple of other
Mhm.
things. But then we saw that there is this thing you can do in e-commerce where you can create a comparison shopping engine sitting at home, which is only
Mhm.
code. Like it's not e-commerce, but it's just comparing different websites. So you can just code it
Right.
from home, and you can and people will come to your site to figure out the best prices across different websites, and
Mhm.
then you will sort of earn some commission fee. So that's the idea we started with. But as soon as within a couple of months of doing research, we figured out actually that in India there were no good e-commerce sites. Like we as customers ourselves would not
Mhm.
buy from any one of them. And
Sure.
that's when we said that, okay, if this is the state of the art of e-commerce, then we got a very strong feeling that we could do it in a way which the customers would love to buy from. Uh,
Right.
and we could create a shopping experience like that. And that's when we said, okay, let's do e-commerce rather than doing a comparison shopping.
All right. So how much of that initial Flipkart product, and it was bare bones, right? I think you sold books
Yeah.
first, and I think you used to go and do the shipping yourself in the beginning while building these products, the platform and everything yourself. How much of that did you build yourself?
Also, we
Given
were
such an
I mean, the two of us in the team when we started, so everything was built by both of us. I think we hired our first developer 2 years after we started. So in 2009, I remember, yeah, or 1.5 years after we started. So for
Mhm.
the first 1.5 years, 18 to 20 months, all the code, all the front end, back end, everything was written by both me and Sachin. Sachin wrote most of the front end and did the design work. I
Right.
wrote all the back end, all the cataloging systems, and the supply chain systems.
That's awesome. Yeah, most of them think of Flipkart and they think it's a big company. There's an engineering team, but then the seeds of that is two people, sort of driven, passionate, and the
Yeah,
ability to write code. And
yeah,
you
yeah.
sort of
Especially, I
plowed
think
through
in
it 2 years.
2000. Yeah, I think in 2007 you couldn't have started an e-commerce company without being an engineer.
Mhm.
I think today there are so many tools and platforms available to really get started, and then you can hire a team once you figure out your product market fit. But I think back in 2007, like that was a big differentiator that we could just build stuff on our own from a technology standpoint, and not sort of pay salaries for tech talent which are high, right? So
Mhm.
I think that was a big reason for sort of our low costs. We hadn't raised any money for 2 years before
Right.
till after we started. So without being able to bootstrap for 2 years and build a platform which became the biggest sort of seller of books in the country very soon was only possible because we sort of were able to write code.
Lesson for all the listeners here today: learn to code, right? So you've built a global business, in admittedly a very difficult market to enter. Trust and quality are all very important, difficult problems, and you discovered a lot of these as you grew. Cash on delivery, I think, probably the first e-commerce store in the world which offered that option
Yeah,
as well. So there's a lot more to building a business than just coding. So how did you go about? What was your learning journey like beyond the first 2 years of Flipkart? How did it
yeah.
go?
No, even in the first 2 years, the only thing like building a business takes many sort of skills, right? I mean,
Right.
you need to understand marketing, you need to understand supply chain, especially in an e-commerce business. You need to obviously know technology, which is the only thing we knew. So we didn't know marketing, we didn't know supply chain, we didn't know people management.
Mhm.
So we were just software. We weren't even managers. We were just two software developers
Right.
from Amazon. So there was a lot more we didn't know, and there was only one thing we knew. So it was all sort of learning by doing
Sure.
and learning by making sort of mistakes on in all the areas, and then it was about learning by hire. I think what really worked for us, we got lucky with, was that we were able to hire people who were better at us than a lot of these things in a lot of these things, actually including in technology, and then learn from them and be more of sort of the integrators
Sure.
of various things, and guiding sort of the whole team towards the overall vision, rather than trying to be the best at any of these ourselves. So, for example, our first hire, he had Sujit, who's now co-founder at Kudan. He came in, he took over sort of all the business development and supply chain
Right.
work from me. Then Mikin, who was our first CTO, he came in, he took over the entire sort of technology,
Right.
team building and technology platform responsibilities. And like they were 10 times better than us in both of these things uh, functionally. So I think that was really the secret sauce
Right.
that worked for us.
What were some surprising things you learned in the first 2 years? It's just you, it's still you and Sachin, right? Things that were probably obvious later on, but you were surprised. Oh my God, this is what we need to do. Some epiphanies during that time.
Oh yeah, I think too many epiphanies, I guess. I guess one interesting story was so since we hadn't raised any money, we didn't have any money for marketing, right? I mean, how do
Right.
you get customers?
Mm-hmm.
And so there was another company started by IT Delhi, two IT Delhi seniors called Chakpak. It was like IMDb for India at that
Sure.
time, and so we basically met them a couple of times. In those meetings we figured out they had solved something called SEO, search engine optimization. We didn't even know what that was. So we're like, okay, this SEO thing uh, uh, can be valuable for us as well, because I mean it can give you free traffic. And
Yeah.
then Sachin spent some time with them, learned the tricks, and we implemented it over 3-4 months. And then one day it started working. So we went from like getting 3-4 orders a week to getting like 10 orders a day
Right.
consistently in one day. And that was just like an amazing. So there were many epiphanies like that. Like you would basically just figure something out by reading online or by meeting someone, learning from people, and then you would apply it, and yeah,
Right.
things would magically change.
Cool. Yeah, I think getting those initial customers also is challenging. You have to trust some small startup to send you a book by mail, and
Yeah,
you're just wondering, right?
yeah. Who are these guys?
Yeah. All right. Cool. So, some important skills that are very like as you grow into the role, into the company, and the company is growing, it's getting traction. It's been a couple of years. You've gone from books to also electronics, and things are looking bright. You're able to raise some funding. What are some important skills and learnings that you pick up along the way that make this kind of growth and journey possible?
Yeah, yeah. So I think in any sort of entrepreneurship journey, I think the first core skill and mindset that you need to pick up is that you need to be a learning machine. I mean, that you need to be able to learn sort of, you have to, because ultimately you have to be a journalist. If you are, you have to get sort of many things to work together. So you have to understand a lot of things from first principles. And so you have to really have a mindset of being sort of a learning machine. And then you pick up, I think as you sort of go along the way, you pick up learnings in, again, many areas. A lot of functional learnings. I mean, if you're in the business of e-commerce, you need to learn how customer service works, how supply chain works, how merchandising works, how pricing works, how technology obviously works,
Right.
how marketing and growth marketing works, right? So a lot of those functional aspects you need to understand, and then you need to understand people. Most important is how do you hire the right people, and how do you create an environment and a culture where they can deliver their sort of best work, and how do you sort of create that environment. So I think it's kind of a constant learning journey around these areas, and you just keep learning and getting better at them.
All right, so let's sort of go to like a more macro kind of try and figure out the entire tech ecosystem in India. Today is very different from the days when you started
Yeah.
Flipkart. There's an ecosystem. There's so much support available. So you want to talk a little bit about, like the first 10 years of the Indian sort of tech ecosystem after you started Flipkart,
Yeah.
how that kind of grew
Yeah.
around you.
That's a actually great question. So the way I would sort of look at it in hindsight, since we started in 2007. So when we started, there were like very few companies, Indian sort of product consumer companies. There was Naukri, Make My Trip, and then we started. There was Red Bus doing tickets, bus tickets as well, but not much else that comes to mind, right? And that was a time when there were 30-40 million people online.
Right.
Again, very few people who had seen startups, quite a few developers in India who were working for product companies, global product companies. Like we were working for Amazon. There was Google had set up something small here, and Microsoft had been here for a long time. Adobe. So some of the so there was Yahoo was there in a big way. So good amount of talent, thankfully, was there. So that was when the sort of and VCs were like again far and few, like 6-7 VC firms total at
Sure.
that time. So that was kind of the startup and tech ecosystem. And then the first wave was really about companies like Flipkart, Myntra started, Ola, right?
Mhm.
A lot of these companies started in a desktop first world,
Right.
doing sort of the first things you do in an internet economy. So e-commerce, cabs, that kind of thing. And and then since 2012 13, I think the major shift started to happening towards mobile, and that's when the number of uh, a number of new e-commerce new technology startups started as well. So food delivery, Swiggy and Zomato, uh, and a few other sort of models as well started at the time. Uh, in fintech, a lot of fintech also started. Paytm, mobile-based sort of payments, things like
Right.
those hadn't sort of happened before at all, right? So a lot of that started happening, and then some talent also started coming from the US, from the Valley to India at that time,
Right.
and then the Indian talent ecosystem also, I think, evolved along with the startup sort of ecosystem, and then came 4G, which really changed the game. Which was 2016, 17, really 17. And then by 2018, there was like a really big acceleration in number of users. And then you could see a lot of companies starting which were not based on Western models. So all of this till like 3G internet was still copy paste of Western models happening.
Sure.
But once 4G came in and we had like 400-500 million people online with 4G,
Hmm.
we've started to see companies doing very India specific uh, problems. Companies like if you think about EdTech in EdTech there's Vedantu, which is about JE coaching, IT JE coaching. There is Ninja Card, which is B2B. uh, Grocery. There is Udan, obviously, which is B2B
Right.
for Kirana stores, right? So a lot of these companies have come up, which have no global parallels.
Sure.
I think that's pretty exciting. The other interesting trend which has been there has been of software companies also starting to mushroom in a big way, and which Freshdesk is a great example. Zoho,
Right.
and now many others, Postman and Zenotti in the recently, which has also come out with a big round. So I think that's the other large sort of trend happening where Indian entrepreneurs are now creating global software companies,
Right.
potentially global software companies, right?
Right.
And that's so those are the two big trends that uh, very India focused sort of global first models to solve for India. and then Indian entrepreneurs creating global sort of software companies.
Right. As the focus turns towards problems in India that are still waiting to be solved, age-old industries, the way they work in India, waiting to be disrupted. Um, where do you see this heading? What are the next couple of problem spaces or traditional businesses that are going to be impacted? Where do you see these things going? Um, Especially with the skill, there are a lot of Indian entrepreneurs capable. They're developers,
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
ready.
yeah.
So,
So I think uh, it is a great sort of time in the journey of the Indian startup ecosystem because we have all the ingredients almost, yeah, as you said there. So we have the entrepreneurs, we have a large pool of technology talent
mhm,
and potential technology talent available, and there is capital. There's a big VC ecosystem now,
mhm,
and local VCs and a lot of obviously global VCs doing sort of on the growth stage rounds, and uh, there are now more than 500 million people connected through mobile internet and 4G and now very soon with 5G. So all this infrastructure and ingredients are in place. So I think the question is not of which industries will get disrupted. I think easier question might be to answer which will not get disrupted. So I think there is going to be change in every area: fintech, education, healthcare, uh, even e-commerce, retail, e-commerce. I think it's e-commerce and retail. We are still only scratching the surface uh, uh, from what has happened till now. A lot of this in the same things in B2B commerce as well. So I think it is going to impact all. I think almost all areas of the economy of the society in
mhm.
the next 5-10 years.
Have you come across, any of these companies working on an idea that is so out there that it just kind of surprises you that, oh my God, is that really a thing? Some very surprising problems that you never thought were problems, but then in hindsight, you're like, oh yeah, why not?
So there's one company that I am an early investor in, which is not like a tech company. It's more like a biotech company,
Mhm.
not a computer technology company, but
Right.
they are exactly like that. So they're in a business of 3D printing human tissues, and they are trying to create a. Now they're working on creating a artificial cornea,
Okay.
uh, so which can solve corneal sort of blindness or corneal problems because the only other solution is getting a transplant,
Yeah.
and you can only get only so many corneal transplants. So the number of patients that need a solution to the number of transplants available is like a ratio of 1:10 or something.
Hmm.
So you just can't solve it through transplant. So like that, yeah, that's an example of something which like I could never think that in a couple of entrepreneurs in India would be going after. But it's been amazing to see what people are now taking on any kind of challenge globally and then trying to solve.
Right. Yeah. Pretty cool. Amazing. What kind of people will drive this change in the wave of companies that's coming, yet to come, already being built? What kind of people does it take to build these? Who will drive this change?
Well, I think it is regular sort of people who are. I think people who want to again who are learning machines who want to solve large problems. I think you need to have. I think you need to think big. You need to have the mindset of thinking big, uh, and have a big sort of vision that you are motivated by, and sort of core purpose of that. Technology, I think, is going to play a huge role. So ability to, at the minimum, ability to use technology, if not code. Ideal will be if you know uh, how to how to write code, but I think that the minimum ability to sort of use technology to solve large problems. I think those are going to
Right.
be critical ingredients.
So, we'll touch upon the opportunity landscape for a little bit, and then we'll open up for audience questions. There's a lot of people waiting to ask questions, right?
Yeah.
A lot of aspiring entrepreneurs on the call today. They've seen these successes around them. Many of them students, waiting to graduate in a year or two, and some early working professionals, 2, 3 years. A lot of idealism, a lot of hope, some hunger, passion, and drive. They're looking at such a wide opportunity landscape. Uh, how do you want to sort of break it down to them and tell them, okay, these are things that you can do. Here are some problems. How do you just gauge the opportunity landscape for all of them?
Yeah. I think the most essential thing at, at this stage at which the audience seems to be, I think, is to really optimize for for maximization of your learning rather than optimizing for, let's say, maximizing your salary that you're going to make in the next 2 years, or optimizing for the brand of the company that you are going to work for the next 2 years or something like that. I think if you optimize for learning the maximum over the next 2 3 years, I think the dividends that's going to pay for the next 20 30 years is just going to be amazing. And I think what you might want to learn will depend on, again, who you are and what kind of things excite you. If you are a journalist, then I think getting into roles where you sort of get to solve uh, problems which require multiple skills, and like problems in marketing or product management, etc., might be more relevant if you're more of sort of a specialist, let's say in technology. Then problems sort of more towards how do you architect large systems, and how do you write sort of scalable code and stuff like that, scalable applications. Those might be more interesting. So I think what you want to learn depends on really who you are and what your interests are, and where you want to go. But I think optimizing for that first would be my biggest advice.
It's also one thing about thinking big versus how foolish you need to be to think big as well, right?
I think that, yeah, kind of goes together. So I think you have to be you have to think big, and I think it's okay to fail. It's okay to be sort of be foolish and think big, and fail. And I think that learning experience can be very valuable in the next thing that you do.
All right. All right, Vinny. So thank you for all of that. I have a lot of audience questions. We've already shared a link where everybody can ask their questions. So I'm going to pick some questions from the audience
Yeah.
and then ask you. Okay. Um, so first question is, there are turning points in the evolution of startups where a decision can make or break it. Right? Was there a moment like that in Flipkart's journey that sort of turned its fortune from will this survive to we really have something going?
Yeah, not in that way, but there were, as I said, I mean, I recounted that story of the sort of Google, the SEO marketing working for us, which was quite pivotal in our initial growth, in our initial growth stage. I think there was probably cash on delivery was again another important sort of milestone where if it hadn't worked, then I think the pace at which we grew would have been like much slower, like 2 to 3 times slower than how much we do. But I think again, luckily in our journey, we didn't have that kind of a survival. I think once we got the SEO going, we were growing like 25-30% month over month, so we never looked back.
It's a good space to be, right? I can't complain. Um, okay, so I'll go to the next question. How did you get your first 10 customers?
How did
The
you get our
first
first?
10, your
Oh,
first 10
customers.
customers.
First 10 customers. So obviously, I mean, I will disregard friends and family
Sure.
as first 10 customers. I think our first customer came because I think me or Sachin, we left a link of Flipkart at somebody's blog, and that you could buy books here, and that person just followed that link and bought a book within like 10 minutes of landing on our site. And we asked him that, why did you do that? Like, we are just a new website. Like, how did you buy something in within 10 minutes of landing on us? And he said, I was looking for this book for like last 5 years, and I saw it's available on your site. So it was 300-400 rupees. So I said, like, what is the max that can go wrong? So I just
Sure.
so I think it was a lot of these kind of stories. We basically some search engine marketing, some very small money we spend, then some of this just putting the word out there in different communities, campuses, etc. That's how we got our first few customers.
What was the most, challenging thing about gaining the trust of customers at that very early stage? Sure, a few first 10, 20, 50, 100 customers.
Yeah.
Trust plays an important role, and you're still looking at, 2007, 2008, when it was very risky. You don't know who to trust on the internet, especially in India.
Yeah. So I think what worked for us was that almost everybody had a really amazing experience the first time they bought, and there were thankfully again enough early adopters trying to buy books online. So I think once they got that experience, I mean, we promised to deliver your books within 3 to 4 days. Most people got it in between 1 and 2 days. So
Mhm.
and that time there was just no other way to get that kind of a service in India. So
Right.
so I think that just built a lot of trust with our customers. And then we had policies of almost like not written but unwritten policy of no questions asked sort of returns. And if anything went wrong, we would just replace or return or refund the customer. So I think that those kind of things also just created a lot of trust. And then word of mouth. I think once somebody started buying, we could see that 5 people in their office complex also started buying. We were just shipping a lot more books to the same address uh,
Right.
after we got our first order from that sort of corporate address. I think that those kind of effects started getting very soon.
So, Amazon started with books. You started with books. Was it a conscious decision to start with books?
Mm, Not really. I think books was probably the easiest in India to get. Maybe Amazon's reasons were different, our reasons were different. So in India, uh, it is the easiest category to start with because there are, I think, one big thing which really was in its favor. There are no taxes on books. So when you buy or sell a book, there is
Mhm.
on the category itself in India, because it's an education-based category. So the government doesn't tax it. So it
Okay.
just makes your job of doing business easier, right? I mean, you don't have
All
to
right.
manage all the taxation when you're buying it, selling it, etc. And there are no import duties as well, so export
Mhm.
duties as well. So it just becomes much easier. They were sort of cheaper to also for the customers to buy as well. So, and it was also easy to create a catalog of books. So every book has a ISBN number, special
Right.
code,
Mhm.
and catalogs are available on publisher websites online. So we could just write scrapers and scrape them. So it was many things sort of came together to make books the easiest category to start with.
It's a developer friendly category,
Developer, yeah, yeah.
right?
And then it turned out to be a marketing friendly category as well, because there is a book on every topic. So
Yeah.
so when you search on Google, we would like show up almost like for many searches, even on related to books, because there is a book on every topic. So if you're searching for sort of any topic, if we had a book on that topic, the book would show up in Google search. So it became a
Right.
marketing hack as well.
Yeah. And then there are bloggers writing about everything.
Yeah.
And you just figured out this thing called SEO and affiliates. So why not? All right, cool. So uh, as Flipkart grew into gradually grew into, from few employees to few thousand employees, uh, what would you say were the changes in your decision making process, and how did that evolve to support the scale of the company?
Yeah. So I think if a company grows in sort of the speed at which we kind of grew, the whole model really changes almost every 18 months. So I think at Flipkart we would kind of take a clear look at how things are going, what were we doing, and what were we not doing, which was relevant to the scale at which we had gotten to. Every 18 months, we would kind of do an exercise, take take stock of where things were, and then make sort of large changes across uh, focus areas of what are the things to focus on for the next couple of years, then who in the team should focus on what, so from our design standpoint, what to do, and then on the processes standpoint, like how do we execute as the business becomes more complex and the number of people in the team grows more. So what are the processes we need to uh, put in? What are new processes we need to put in? What do we need to simplify? etc. So I think it was a continuous process. We got it wrong a lot of time. We were late a lot of the time in putting in processes. For example, I remember we really put in very strong uh, uh, business finance or sort of accounting and financial processes only like by end of 2012. And
Okay.
that was because 2012 was really the first year when we had started sort of missing our quarterly targets.
Right.
Before that, we were beating them hands down. So there was really no need to do that. But I think once we started missing them, the need became quite clear. So I think it was again a lot of trial and error, just learning
Right.
by failure uh, in a
Right.
lot of these areas.
All right. So I've got two more questions. Um, what was your interesting question? What was your routine in your 20s like? Your daily routine in your 20s. What did you do?
Routine in my so I started Flipkart when I was 25. So
Maybe we'll
uh,
talk about Flipkart, like 20, like, a typical work day. We'll talk about a typical work day.
typical work at Flipkart.
Yeah.
Typical work at Flipkart would be solving whatever fire was on at that time. There is no typical workday in a startup. So I think the typical workday doesn't really.
Yeah. Mythical. Yeah. Doesn't exist.
I think it could go from like negotiating a fundraise to hiring a developer to hiring a to talking to a electronics partner to anything. So I think there was no sort of yeah typical day.
Yeah, I think today you get better founder-friendly kind of term sheets. Back then, it's still very early in the game in the Indian startup ecosystem as well, right?
Yeah.
Very hard negotiating with all the VCs and the investors.
Yeah.
All right, so what separates a great software engineer from a good software engineer? Is there a distinction?
Oh, definitely there is. I think great software engineers can clearly, I think, build sort of things which are just way more elegant and scalable, uh, both functionally and not not just scalable in terms of sort of users, or but also I think scalable in terms of functionality that you can just keep adding stuff around the core in a very seamless manner. So I think there is definitely uh, a big sort of gap between a good developer and a great developer.
All right. Um, my last question for the day, okay, is it's on creating these great developers and also skills that they have, and skill-based education is now retaking its shape in the world, right? So what's the importance of college degree versus the skills you need versus college dropouts who kind of pick up the skills on their own? Generally, the role of skills-based learning
Yeah,
and focus on that.
yeah. I think ex- from my experience, what I've seen is both as sort of as a student, if I see what did I learn back in school, then in college, and then I mean, what did I learn while I was working? Firstly, in a couple of jobs, then working at Flipkart. I think the more I learned the most when I was doing, at least personally. So I think uh, even in college when I was doing my projects was when I felt I was learning the most rather than when sort of preparing for exams or something. So I
Right.
think the skill based uh, learning by doing based sort of models which are coming in, I think are the right way to go. And that was one of the big motivations for me also to invest in Crio as well. So I think that I strongly believe that that is the best way to learn. That's some personal experience uh, that I've gone through as well. So
Mhm.
I think it's great to see the direction in which this is going, and I think education in 10 years will change in a major way globally. I think
Right.
that it's not going to look anything like it does today in all areas. I think not just in programming or coding or computer science, but in I think in many other areas as well.
Will that accelerate the entrepreneurial mindset change
Oh
that you
yeah,
keep
I
hoping?
think
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, I think it will. The mindset change, the mindset training will also become sort of core to the curriculum, so to speak. Yeah.
All right. So, Binny, we have a large audience. Any parting message that you want to share with them before we wind up for the day?
Yeah. I think my uh, last message would be that I think it is a great time to be a developer or to be an entrepreneur or to be in the sort of area of technology. So there are many problems to solve. I think find out what you're passionate about and optimize to sort of be at a place where you will have a great leadership, great manager, and you can learn the most. And then sort of go from there.
All right. Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for joining us, Vinny. As
Thank
always, very
you.
inspiring. A whole generation of college students look up to you as an idol and an inspiration. And one of the first names of companies that we get, we say, what do you want to do? And at Cryo, when we have people filling out applications, your dream company and Flipkart is usually up there on everybody's list of companies. So I think you've done something phenomenal. You've enabled a whole generation of future engineers to dream and dream big and think that they can achieve really big things and compete in a very competitive global market as peers. So that's fascinating. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining us here today. And to all the audience, thank you for joining. Thank you for the spirited participation as well as the questions. We have many more in the series, big variable series, coming up in the next couple of days, and hope that you will be able to join us for the rest of the fireside chats as well. Yeah, thanks a lot, Vinny. Thank you so much for spending your time with
Thank
us.
you. Bye bye.
All right, thank you.